Shalom Aleichem. Welcome. This is Avraham Shira. We're back with our daily class on Patreon, and we're asking one of the most asked questions in theological thought. Theological questions are many. Why people suffer, is there a world to come, revival of the dead, all these kinds of questions. But the question, why do we need to pray? If God knows everything, if God is behind everything, if He is the power in everything, if there is this concept of divine providence, all these other ideas that we believe in, then why do we need to pray? God can already make everything happen without us. But it's not so simple. And today we're going to answer that question in a pretty simple way that'll help us really understand our partnership with Hashem. Listen closely. The idea that Yosef HaTzadik hu HaShalit, hu bechinat melafum. Melafum is one of the vowels of the 10 vowels of the Hebrew Aleph Bet. The vowel melafum corresponds to the shuruk, which corresponds to the Shira of Yesod, which is one dot in the middle of a vav, like this, right? If you know one of the vowels is a vav, and you have a dot, it's on the top, it's a cholam, O. If it's in the middle, it's an U, right? If it's underneath, it's E. So this melafum is a vowel, but it's not just a vowel. It's a map of energy flow from the mind to the body. He's going to explain that. Excuse me. Explain that as well. As it is written, Brit Merkava Liyesod. So the Brit, the covenant, is a chariot to the Yesod. And the Yesod is foundation. It's connected to the Brit of a human being, the circumcision. That when a person has a Brit, he becomes a chariot to the energy. Understand, the idea of the chariot is something that brings something from one place to another. That's what chariots do, right? So we're talking about the movement of energy from one place to another, from the mind in Chokhmah down through the body and the midot into Yesod. So that's why the Zohar says, Brit Merkava Yesod Asher Havaya Shelo B'Nikud Melafum. And the voweling of the Havaya, the Yud Kei Vav Kei, of that Sphira. See, every Sphira has its own vowel. And that vowel is specifically, precisely assigned to each Havaya of each Sphira. Energy centers are the Spheras. Every Sphira has a Havaya that gives it its power, Yud Kei Vav Kei, and that Havaya has a vowel, which shapes the energy, if you will. It's one way to think of it. Ki melafum hu otiot malefum. But the word melafum, you could split it, malefum. Mouth, a mouth that is malay. Melafum is there. Lehoro, to teach us, shekol hashefa, all the life force. Hayinu apeh shel tzaddik, which is in the mouth of the righteous, the truly righteous. Hu malay melokut shel Hashem yitbarach. The mouth of the righteous is truly filled with godliness, and therefore we go to the tzaddik for his blessing. Ki lechora kashe, because if you look at it after the fact, wait a minute, like we just said in the beginning, why do we need to pray? Hashem knows our thoughts. He knows where we're at, where we're going, where we've been. So why do we have to pray? What are we doing? But since our speech is the vessel of the life force, the divine energy that you're looking for in your life is not in the air around you. That's a level of energy for sure, right? Tesla proved that. No, we're talking about the energy that's much more refined than simple electromagnetic radiation. We're talking about the energy of God as it comes into your soul. And where does it come? It comes into the words, our dibur, the speech. So what does speech become? Our speech is a vessel of divine power to begin with. It's just that everybody's speech is not at the same level. Everybody's words are not the same capacity to hold the energy. And these words are the kli shemekablim hashefa. Como shekatuv v'yivarech etchem kasher diber lechem. And you will be he will bless you as he spoke them. But it's also as we speak them. So our prayer is necessary because we are in partnership with God. He provides the energy, we provide the vessel to hold it. So too, the shefa will be according to our speech, how we shape it. Right? And this speech can be itself a complete whole vessel. And then you can receive in them complete shefa. And the words of the righteous, and certainly his words are whole and complete. And then he can draw a life force for the rest of the nation. And this is why it's called the filled mouth, the mouth filled with blessing. To teach us that his mouth is full and complete with holiness. And that's the idea of Yosef Tzaddik, who was the ruler. Now, the next paragraph of Torah Lamed Daled is paragraph Daled. And every person in the Jewish people has an aspect of rulership, tzaddik moshel. Every person has this ability to be righteous and to use his speech to run the show. Shehu b'chirat malefum, which is that full mouth of blessing. Kamo shekatuv ve'amech Yisrael kulam tzaddikim v'zeu perush. And this is the idea that all your people are righteous. Yisrael b'memshalotav, and the Jewish people are his government. Haynu mishu moshel ki b'tzaddik. And that is, God says, and whoever rules me is the righteous. The righteous has, as if he rules God's shefa, where to send it. Ki yesh b'chol echad miYisrael davar yakar shehu b'chinet nikra nikuda. And each person has this precious point, ma she'ein b'chavero, that no one else has that same point. Kamase da'abaya va'abba umana. Like the story of Abaye, the two great Amoraim, and Abba Umana, sheheshivu lo matzit le'me'avad k'uvdad Abba Umana. He's telling him in the story that we have not been able to achieve the level of Abba Umana. V'chinat hazot yesh bo yoter mechavero. And each person has something more than somebody else. So there is a tzaddik who's great in all ways, or in many ways, and there's some people that are not so great in most ways, but they always have a point that is special that no one else has. And this person has influence and arouses his heart, the heart of his friend. And the friend needs to receive the arousal from his friend. Each person receives the good point from the other person. Like the malach we say about the angels, and we answer kedusha. They receive from each other. So too, the Jewish people need to receive the good points of each other. Kikoda matan Torah, hayam memshala b'yad Hashem yitbarach. Because before we received the Torah, the ruling government of the life force was directly in God's hands. V'achar matan Torah natana memshala liyad kol Yisrael. And after he gave the Torah, he gave the power of directing the Shefa to the Jewish people. Kol achad lefi b'chinato, each person according to his level. Ki otiot Torah hem lepshut ritzono shel Hashem yitbarach, because all the letters of the Torah are the enclothement of God's will. Ki ritzono shel Hashem yitbarach shemitzvot yukach, because God's will is in each of the mitzvot, that the mitzvot will be done exactly as it's been given to us. L'mashal mitzvot tefillin. Hayinu rotzo shehu bechinat arba parshiot v'vatim shel or v'lo shel kesev, and that there'll be 4 sections of parchment, each with their writing of the Torah on them, in leather boxes and not in silver ones. Ki kein rotzono, because that's His will. You see, His will is not just a general will, it is a specific will. It's not a static force like electricity, it rather is specific according to the mitzvot. And that's how He passed His rulership over to us, through the Torah. And therefore God's will is in all the Torah. And now that the Torah is in our hands, so too God's will is put into our hands. And that, my friends, is an awesome thing. And that is as if to say that we rule God's will according to our will. God, the Jewish people are God's kingship. This is what our sages taught. Rabot asita ata Hashem Elokai. Many things you have done, God. Kodem matan Torah, we have the idea before. Achar matan Torah, but after matan Torah, you see, before God gave the Torah, we didn't have this intimate connection to His will in the same specific way. After He gave us the Torah, we did, and that's the idea of Niflotecha machshavotecha eleinu, that your wonders and your thoughts come to us. This is after the Torah is written and given to the Jewish people. Hayinu shakol biyadenu. So it's given over into our hands. Anochi Hashem Elokecha ma'acha me'eretz Mitzrayim. This is the idea. I am God, your God, who brought you out of Egypt. I didn't bring you out of Egypt for nothing. It wasn't for a couple of weeks vacation in the desert. It was the idea to give over the government to you. Hayinu kodem matan Torah haya hako anochi ve'achar matan Torah harchev picha v'amalehu. And then after the Torah, God says, I'm going to let you run the show, but open up your mouth, fill your mouth with my Torah and malehu, and I will fill it, and His will comes into us. Bechinat melafum shu bechinat Yosef hu hashalit, which is this idea of Yosef. Hayinu mi shemoshel bi, the one who rules God, rules his life force. Hayinu sha'shefahu lefi harchavat hapeh. The life force is according to the way a person opens his mouth in prayer. And this is why we need to pray. Because we are making the vessel for His will to come into our will and to be expressed into the world. That is the Jewish mission. That is the mission of the mitzvot. And so when people ask you why you pray, you say, well, because I'm a partner. Simple as that. I am partners with God in the Shefa. According to our speech. Each person according to his level. And this is an awesome responsibility. And I pray that all of us receive it properly and use it properly, because it is the answer to all our problems. That we can direct the Shefa through our speech. We are not on the lower level that we know from their past. We are on a new level, we're on a new path, the path of this true tzaddik. So there's a lot to look forward to, folks. And we're going to continue this Torah tomorrow and onward into time and space. Hopefully further. God bless you all. Have a great day.